In today's lesson, we're going to examine our last example of text using close and critical reading strategies. We're using digital text in the form of a political cartoon. A political cartoon is a particular type of text, so the close and critical reading strategies we apply will be a little bit different than we have previously. The political cartoon that we are using is from Matt Worker. He won the Pulitzer Prize in 2012 for this cartoon that dealt with Egypt and the grassroots political uprising demanding President Mubarak being removed from office, and what happened with the U.S. in terms of Egypt being an ally, but the country being run as a dictatorship. In order to understand political cartoons, it is essential that you have the background information referenced by the image. The texts that we have used in this lesson up until this point have provided you that background that you need to understand the issue of freedom and the political implications of U.S. foreign policy as freedoms are being expressed or demanded in countries around the world, and especially in those areas which we may already have alliances, but they are done with countries that do not allow the same freedoms that we believe and express in the United States. One of the first things we can think about when examining a political cartoon is the fact that a political cartoon can be viewed as a metaphor. A metaphor is a literary figure of speech that uses an image, story, or tangible thing to represent some intangible quality or idea. Metaphors can be useful when you're thinking across multiple texts because they can represent the critical context or concept presented in the text in just a few words. This is the context that we are going to use to examine the political cartoon. In order for us to write margin notes or take notes within the context of our examination of a political cartoon, all I have done is right-clicked on the image and copied the image, and then all I need to do is copy the image into my Google document. Remember, you cannot use Control-C, or excuse me, you cannot use your right mouse click, but you can use Control-V to paste. Once I'm in my Google document, I can go ahead and annotate the same way I would any other text. The strategy I'm going to show you is a T-chart, which is a type of table that can be used to create or compare different pieces of information. So on the one side of the chart, I'm going to label it Observations of Concepts. So I can just put Observations of Concepts. And on the right-hand side, I am going to put down Images I Don't Understand. Now, another way to do this would actually be to insert a table. So if you wanted to go and make a table this way, we certainly could do it that way and insert the table. And if we do it right underneath, then we already have, you can see, it creates a T. So now I'm going to go through and look at the image very carefully and use a critical eye to observe observations of concepts and parts of the image that I don't understand. The first thing that I notice is on top, riding this animal, is a picture of Uncle Sam. So an observation of concept that I understand is Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam is what we use to represent the United States, like he is a literal figure, but what he really represents is the United States. So I understand that image when I see him on top of that. Just because I don't understand why he's on top of it, I do understand that that is supposed to be Uncle Sam. Now on the other side, images I don't understand is I don't understand the animal. It appears that he is riding an animal. So animal being ridden by Uncle Sam. I'm not sure why he's riding an animal, but we can see my clues here are that there is a rein. So in that way, it seems similar to what you would see with a horse. So it's almost as if he's on the back of a horse with reins, and that implies that he's controlling whatever it is that he is riding, but I don't understand the use of the animal. Continuing that observation thought, we've already talked about that reins is something that we do understand. We understand the concept of the rein, and we talked about the fact that it implies that a human is controlling an animal. So whoever has the reins and has control of the reins is controlling whatever is attached to the reins. And we can see that Uncle Sam definitely, it's attached to the figure that he's riding. He certainly has hold of the reins. So that concept we understand. So I understand what reins are. But what I don't understand is the face that's in here. So the face in the animal. I don't understand why the face is there. Obviously, this is a political cartoon. It means something beyond the literal, where we would look at Uncle Sam is riding something and controlling it with reins, but then there is a face on there. So I don't understand what the face of the animal is. Thinking about not understanding the face in the animal, but understanding it is a face, and it's related to the Egyptian uprising, I made the observation that perhaps this was the Egyptian president. So I went and looked for an image and found out that this is, in fact, President Mubarak, who at the time was the president of Egypt. So that's an observation or concept that the face of the animal, I didn't understand why there was a face, but that may lead me to go look because I can't understand this cartoon without understanding that face. So now that's become President Mubarak, who is actually the face of this. So then when we connect that to the fact that Uncle Sam is riding on the back of President Mubarak, I find that there are other things that I understand. For instance, you can see this is in the desert, and I'm assuming it's Egypt, and Egypt is well known for their pyramids. And you see pyramids in the background, so that's our first clue. But also there is a pyramid that is not the triangular shape and the regular shape or shape you associate with the pyramids, but there is a pyramid that very much looks like the symbol of President Mubarak. It has normally a lion face, not the face of the president of Egypt. So that I also understand, the observations or concepts, is that we are looking at Egyptian pyramids, and that's especially relatable because pyramids are where former leaders or dead leaders of Egypt or the Egyptian country are buried. So the fact that Mubarak's face is on here is interesting. So when we look at this from a metaphorical point of view, we're going to look at the Egyptian president Mubarak as a tangible object. That's something that we understand. It's a real thing. So President Mubarak is a real person who was the president of Egypt. At the same time, Uncle Sam is not a real person. It's an intangible. Uncle Sam doesn't actually exist as a person. He represents the concept or is a representative image of the United States, but there is not an actual Uncle Sam as a person. So that we can relate to tangible and intangible objects, which form. Another example of intangible or things I don't understand could be the term awkward. So you can see in the bubble, Uncle Sam is saying, uh-oh, this is awkward. So we need to apply the metaphors that are tangible and intangible and try and come to a conclusion. This is very much inferencing in the context of a political cartoon. So you have Uncle Sam who's holding the reins of the Egyptian president. Underneath the Egyptian president, or the pyramid representing him, are all of the people of Egypt, and you can see that they're holding a sign that says democracy. So they're trying to push against what represents old Egypt in the form of President Mubarak, and they're demanding democracy. They're wanting the old way to be gone and demanding democracy. The problem is that the United States is allied with Egypt, and especially President Mubarak. So it becomes an awkward time in U.S. foreign policy when we have a grassroots movement, and remember we talked about that in one of our previous texts. Grassroots means it comes from the people. It's a movement, usually political, where the people are in charge and demanding differences, not the political leaders of the age. So we find the United States in the form of Uncle Sam in the awkward position of being allied with a dictator leading his country at the same time that the people of the country are demanding the freedoms and demanding a democracy just like we value and promote in the United States. After carefully observing the strategies that we used to do a close and critical reading of a political cartoon as an image text, You need to move on to the next lesson using cross-text matrix. You will need to call upon this lesson as well as do your own critical analysis of the cartoon in order to complete the assignment.